Namaskar students. Hope you are healthy and hearty, taking care of your health and your studies. My name is Jyotsna and I am from Education Department, Chandigarh. Modern day man has travelled a long way. In the stories by our grandparents, we might have heard that their forefathers used to take days to travel between the places. And then things changed with them, and then today it is a fast-paced world. Traveling between the countries was a dream probably 100 years ago, but today it is done in a jiffy thanks to the airways. Till now we have talked about the environment, we have talked about the earth's crust, changes in the earth, then we have talked about air, water, about the wildlife and vegetation. Our topic of discussion today is about human environment, settlement, transport and communication. This topic belongs to grade 7 book, Our Environment. Let's get started. The human environment is concerned with people who live in different environments, their activities and the environmental features which they have created. We also look at the interdependence of people in the local community. Starting with the settlements. Settlements can vary in size from the very small to extremely large. They can be small as one house as large as a megacity, home to tens of millions of people. That can be permanent or temporary. Settlements start in different places for different reasons. A settlement is an existence of occupancy for shelter where people live. Settlement is man's structural transformation towards application to his environment. The study of settlement is largely a product of the 20th century. A settlement is man's first step towards adaptation to his environment. Settlement designates an organized colony of human beings together with their residences and other buildings. It also includes shops, hotels, banks, etc., the roads, streets which are used for traveling. Settlements are located as advantageously as possible with respect to natural features such as water, fuel, food, protection and drainage and access to transportation and communication. Settlements are places where people build their homes, as we talked earlier. Early human beings lived on trees or in caves. Settlements can be permanent or temporary, as we discussed earlier. So, let's take up in detail what these permanent and temporary settlements are, starting with temporary settlements. Settlements which are occupied for a short time are called temporary settlements. The people living in deep forests, hot and cold deserts and mountains often dwell in such temporary settlements. They practice hunting, gathering, shifting cultivation. Now let's talk about permanent settlements. Permanent settlement means where people built homes to live in. Settlements can be further classified into two categories, the rural and urban settlements. Rural settlement. The villages are rural settlements where people are engaged in activities like agriculture, fishing, forestry, craft work and trading, etc. Rural settlements can be compact or scattered. Compact settlement. A compact settlement is a closely built area of dwelling wherever flat land is available. Scattered settlement dwelling. These types of settlements are spaced over an extensive area. This type of settlement is mostly found in hilly tracts, thick forest and region of extreme climate. In rural areas, people build houses to suit their environment. In regions of heavy rainfall, they have slanting roofs. Places where water accumulates in the rainy season, the houses are constructed on a raised platform or stilts. Thick mud-walled houses with thatched roofs are very common in areas of hot climate. Moving on to urban settlement. Urban settlements are generally compact and larger in size and engaged in a variety of non-agricultural, economic and administrative functions. As mentioned earlier, cities are functionally linked to rural areas around them. Thus, exchange of goods and services is performed sometimes directly and sometimes through a series of market towns and cities. Thus, cities are connected directly as well as indirectly with the villages and also with each other. Since prehistoric times, towns flourished in India. During the time of Indus Valley civilization, towns like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were in existence. The following period has witnessed evolution of towns. Now let's have a quick revision of what we did. On your screens, you can find a question. Along with that, you have 4 options. You have to pick the correct option. So, where did early man live? On trees and in caves, in kacha houses, in pakka houses, in huts. Yes, it is option A, on trees and in caves. Moving on, which type of settlement is occupied for a short time? Permanent settlement, temporary settlement, both A and B, or none of them? Yes, it is actually the temporary settlements which are occupied for a short time. Next question. The natural conditions for selection of an ideal site are favorite climate, availability of water, suitable land, all of these. Yes, the natural conditions for selection of an ideal site are all of these. A place must have favorite climate, availability of water and suitable land. So, option D is the correct option. In which environment do people build slanting roofs on their houses? Heavy rainfall, bright sunlight, heavy cold, or none of these? It is option A, heavy rainfall. Correct. Moving on. In which of the following settlements are people engaged in activities like fishing, agriculture, craftswork, etc.? Rural settlements, urban settlements, forestry settlements, or none of these? Yes, it is option A, rural settlements. Why do people move from one place to other? For jobs, for better education, for medical facilities, or all of these? Yes, the correct answer is option D, all of these. Alright, so now let's start with the transport services. So, transport is the means by which people and goods move. In the early days, people used to walk and animals were used to carry their goods. Invention of wheel made transport easier. The early traders from other countries used to take several months to reach India. They took either the sea route or the land route. Modern means of transport thus saves time and energy. The 4 major means of transport are roadways, railways, waterways and airways. Before taking that up, let's talk a little bit more about the transport. So, as we discussed that for a long time, trade and transport moved within restricted boundaries of space and time. But with the development in the field of science and technology, trade and transport have spread all over the world. The world has become one big village and distances have become immaterial. Or to be more precise, distances seems to have shrunk. This has been made possible by the development of a fast and efficient transport and communication system. Thus, trade, transport and communication complement each other. Today, life has become very complex. We are all dependent on each other. Even trade has expanded from national to international levels. The India of today is well linked to the rest of the globe, despite its huge area, diversities, and pluralities in the linguistic and socio-cultural fields. Transport and communication have enriched them both socially and economically. Our lives have become easier and more amenities and comforts are readily available to us. Thus, it is evident that modern means of transport and communication are the lifeline of our nation and its economy. Trade, be it local, national, or global, depends largely upon a dense and efficient network of transport and communication. Starting with the transport, let's take up the roadways first. The most commonly used means of transport, especially for short distances, are roads. They can be metalled and unmetalled. Roads have also been built in terrains like desert, forest, and even high mountains. Manali Leh Highway in Himalayan mountain is one of the highest roadways in the world. Roads built underground are called subways, underpaths. Flyovers are built over raised structures. We just talked about the metalled roads and unmetalled roads. So let's try to know what are these. Metal roads are made up of concrete, cement, etc. And the unmetalled roads are made up of mud and no concrete or cement. Metal roads are used all over the year. All we can say that it is perennial. On the other hand, unmetalled road cannot be used annually as it gets muddy in rainy season. Moving on, let's take up railways. The invention of the steam engine and the industrial revolution helped in speedy development of rail transport. Diesel and electric engines have largely replaced the steam engines. The railway network is well developed over the plain areas. Advanced technological skills have enabled laying of railway lines in different mountain terrain also. The Indian railway network is well developed. It is the largest in Asia. Now let's talk about waterways. Waterways are the cheapest for carrying heavy and bulky goods over long distances. They are mainly of two types, inland waterways and sea routes. Navigable rivers and lakes are used as inland waterways. Some of the important inland waterways are Ganga-Brahmaputra river system, the Great Lakes in North America, and the River Nile in Africa. Sea routes and oceanic routes are mostly used for transporting merchandise and goods from one country to another. These routes are connected with the ports. Some of the important ports of the world are Singapore and Mumbai in Asia, New York, Los Angeles in North America, Rio de Janeiro in South America, Durban and Cape Town in Africa, Sydney in Australia, London and Rotterdam in Europe. Airways. Airways is the fastest way of transportation developed in the early 20th century. It is also the most expensive due to the high cost of fuels. Air traffic is adversely affected by bad weather like fog and storms. It is the only mode of transport to reach the most remote and distant areas, especially where there are no roads and railways. Helicopters are extremely useful in most inaccessible areas and in times of calamities for rescuing people and distributing food, water, clothes, and medicines. Now let's talk about communication. Communication means conveying message to others. With the development of technology, humans have devised new and fast modes of communication. Different modes of communication are used to provide information, to educate as well as entertain. Through newspapers, radio and television, we can communicate with a larger number of people. They are therefore called mass media. The satellites have made communication even faster. Satellites have helped in oil exploration, survey of forest, underground water, mineral wealth, weather forecast, and disaster warning. Wireless telephonic communications through cellular phones have become very popular today. Internet not only provides us with worldwide information and interaction but has also made our lives more comfortable. With the kind of interconnectivity of people, services and institutions across the world, we are large global society. Both transportation and communication play major role in economic uplift of country as they promote internal and external trade. Transportation and communication systems help to promote the use of natural resources, mobility of skilled labor force, diversification of markets, provision of fuel, increase in agricultural and industrial production. Efficient transport and communication systems help to establish relationships among people in different parts of the world. These have also strengthened the feeling of unity among people in different cultural backgrounds. Transport and communication systems help to create job opportunities for people living in rural areas by connecting laborers and creating employment for them in the industries. However, they have also solved the needs of industries and reduced unemployment. The development of transport system also leads to development of industries because transport system utilizes the product of industries and both complement each other in different ways. Efficient means of transport and communication have indeed shortened time, distance and the cost that would have been used to move and to deliver goods and information from one person to another. The four major means of transportation are roadways, railways, waterways and airways. Then we discussed about roadways, that the most commonly used means of transport, especially for short distance, are roads. They can be metalled or unmetalled. We talked about railways, how Indian railway network is largest in Asia. We talked about waterways, that waterways are the cheapest means of transportation for carrying heavy and bulky goods over long distances. There are mainly two types of routes, the inland waterways and the sea route. Navigable rivers and lakes are used as inland waterways and sea routes are connected through ports. We talked about airways, that how airways are the fastest and most expensive mode of transportation. It is the only mode of transport to reach the most remote and distant areas, especially where no roads and railways are found. Then we talked about communication, how the process of conveying the message to others is known as communication. Different modes of communications are used to educate as well as to entertain. Communication is of two types, personal and mass communication. Through newspaper, radio and television, we can communicate with a large number of people. That's why they are called mass media. Satellite, internet, wireless, telephone are main modes of communication. So with this, we come to the end of the session. I'm sure today's session must have been very fruitful for you. Let's try to analyze what we have learned out of it. On your screens, you can see certain statements or questions. Along with that, there are four options. You have to pick the correct options. So, let's get going. Roads built underground are called subways, expressways, airways or flyovers. It is option A, subways. Roads built underground are called subways. Moving on, which country has the largest railway network in Asia? China, India, Pakistan, Japan. So the largest railway network in Asia belongs to India. This is option B. Which is the best means to transport to reach inaccessible areas? Airways, waterways, railways or roadways? Yes, it is airways, which are the best means to transport to reach inaccessible areas. Next, which one of the following is not a means of communication? Table, mobile phone, newspaper, magazine? Yes, it is table. On your screens, you can see certain words in column A and column B. Let's match them correctly. So, Manali Leh is the highest roadway. Waterways are the cheapest mode of transport. Xing to Lhasa is the highest rail route. Urban areas, manufacturing, trading and services belong to urban areas. Rural areas, agriculture, fishing and forestry belongs to rural areas. Alright, let's fill some blanks. People of deserts or deep forest live in temporary settlements. In region of heavy rainfall, houses have slanting roofs. Flyovers are built over raised structures. The place where building or settlement develops is called site. Very good. So now let's see if the statements given are true or false. Settlements occupied for a shorter period of time are called temporary settlements. True. In areas of hot climate, houses have slanting roofs. False. Airways are the fastest and the costliest means of transport. True. Newspapers have made communication even faster. False. It takes ages to build something, but if we don't preserve it, it's gone. With a request to all of you to keep in mind to preserve our resources, I'll sign off today. We'll be back with many more videos. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy and keep learning. Never forget that change starts with me. Namaskar.